A horror director got arrested for murder because his movie looked too real. The FBI opened an investigation into what they thought was an actual snuff film, and some of the most famous horror movies in history killed the people who made them. So let's talk about what really happened behind the cameras in the most disturbing backstories of horror movies out there. If you don't know, Stanley Kubrick was a perfectionist, which is what people say when they want to sound smart about movies. But here's what actually happened on The Shining. Kubrick spent months breaking down Shelley Duvall's mental health because he thought it would make better cinema. The baseball bat scene where Duvall swings at Jack Nicholson, they shot it 127 times.
Meticulous Stanley Kubrick had made her do 127 takes,
which is a world record, not for best acting or for the most creative camera work though, but for making someone do the same terrifying scene over and over until she had a breakdown. Kubrick went as far as to tell his crew to not be nice to Duvall. He wanted her isolated and scared. Jack Nicholson later said Kubrick pushed Duvall way harder than he pushed anyone else on set. Why? Because apparently watching a woman fall apart was more authentic than, her being able to do her job. Acting. You hired her for the role. She can do that herself. You don't need to terrorize a poor girl into doing something. In fact, Duvall's hair started falling out, not because of the role or for makeup, but from stress. She got physically sick most mornings before filming. She had to cry on command for 12 hours a day, week after week. And when her body finally said enough is enough and she couldn't produce tears anymore, she would listen to sad music or think about depressing stuff just to keep the waterworks going. There is literal behind the scenes footage of Duvall collapsing from exhaustion, and Kubrick just stands there. He doesn't help. He tells the crew not to help either. This is a grown man watching a woman break down and thinking, perfect. This is exactly what I need for my art. And the worst part, it worked. Duvall's terror in the movie is completely real because she was actually terrified of her director, who spent months systematically destroying her confidence and health. But hey, at least we got a classic horror movie out of one woman's psychological torture. So there's no big deal, right? Absolutely zero ethical or moral boundaries were broken in creating The Shining. That's why it's such a great movie. At least Kubrick only broke his actors mentally though, because the Poltergeist movies killed 4 cast members. But calling it a curse is just Hollywood being dramatic about something way more mundane. Child actors dying because nobody was watching out for them. Dominique Dunne played the older sister right after the first movie came out. Then her ex-boyfriend strangled her in her own driveway. She was 22. Then there's Heather O'Rourke, the little girl who said, "They're here." Well, she died at 12 from what should have been a treatable stomach problem, except the doctors kept missing the diagnosis. 2 more actors from the second movie died, but they were already sick when filming started. Julian Beck had stomach cancer, and Will Sampson died after surgery complications. Those deaths make more sense. Cancer kills people, and sometimes surgery goes wrong. But here's where it gets really weird. You know the pool scene with all the skeletons? Well, you're not looking at fake skeletons. They used real human skeletons as props because fake ones cost more money. I'm not joking with you. That's the actual listed reason if you look this up for them using human skeletons. Not because the director was psycho and wanted to do something super authentic, but because they were fucking broke. So they said, nah, let's just rob a couple graves. I'm not paying $50 at Spirit Halloween for a fucking skeleton when I can get old Graham out back in the graveyard. Hell no, I like a deal. Call me Mr. Krabs. So yeah, there were actual dead people floating around the set. Not cursed dead people, just regular dead people that some accountant decided was more cost effective than plastic. The cast actually got so freaked out that Will Sampson, who was a real medicine man, performed an actual exorcism on set one night. Not because of supernatural forces though, but because everyone was stressed about working with actual human remains while making a movie about angry ghosts. JoBeth Williams went on to say that lights flickered and weird noises happened during filming. You know what also causes flickering lights and weird noises? Old electrical systems in movie studios and a bunch of heavy equipment running all day. Hot take here, I think movie studios are just trying to get away with the lowest quality they can for the lowest amount of money. It's all about cutting costs. That's the only curse here. The Poltergeist curse isn't supernatural. It's just what happens when Hollywood puts kids in movies and doesn't give a shit about them. 2 young women died because the adults around them failed to protect them. That's not a curse. That's just tragic. And speaking of things going wrong, The Exorcist had problems that actually seemed supernatural. William Friedkin thought he was making a movie about demons. Turns out something might have been paying attention. The production was a disaster from day one, but not in a normal Hollywood way, but in ways that made everyone wonder if they'd pissed off something upstairs. A bird flew into a circuit box and burned down the entire set. Except, and this is where it gets weird and my conspiracy theory brain starts to go off, the bedroom where all the exorcism scenes happened didn't burn. Everything else was ashes, but that one room, yeah, it was perfectly fine. Even the fire department couldn't explain why the flames just stopped at that doorway. I mentioned this in a previous video. Is it a marketing stunt? Just saying, I used to work in marketing. There are some crazy ideas thrown around in there. Like, you would not believe what comes out of the mouth of like a white 6-year-old marketing lead. He will say some crazy shit. And this is basically human prehistory, the 1970s. We all were falling for stuff back then. We still fall for stuff. But anyways, that shut down filming for 6 weeks. But then the accidents kept coming. Ellen Burstyn, the mom in the movie, got thrown to the floor so hard during one scene that she hurt her back permanently. Her scream of pain in the film, yeah, that's real. She actually screamed because her spine just got Mortal Kombated. Linda Blair, the little girl, was only 14, and a stunt gone wrong gave her a spinal fracture. She then developed scoliosis that lasted the rest of her life. A carpenter lost his thumb. Another crew member got his toe chopped off. 9 people connected to the movie died during filming or right after. Jack McGowan played the drunk guy who gets thrown out of a window. He finished his scenes, then caught pneumonia and died days later. The night watchman died. A special effects guy died. Even family members of the cast started dropping. Linda Blair's grandfather, Max von Sydow's brother. Everyone was so freaked out that Friedkin brought in an actual priest to bless the set. This is a guy who directed The French Connection, not some superstitious amateur. But when your horror movie starts killing people, you call in the professionals. But even worse so, The Omen took those coincidences and made them look planned. Because The Omen didn't just kill people, it killed them in ways that matched the movie's plot. That's either the universe having a sense of humor or the worst luck in Hollywood history. Gregory Peck's son shot himself 2 months before filming started. Peck was about to play a dad whose kid turns out to be the Antichrist. Then his real son dies by his own hands. But Peck stayed on the movie anyway, probably because he needed the work after a personal tragedy. 3 separate planes carrying cast and crew got hit by lightning. 3. Lightning doesn't usually target specific movies, but apparently The Omen was special. I actually got on a plane last weekend, and I'm not scared of planes or anything, but I was looking up the odds of lightning striking a plane and what would happen. Turns out it happens more often than you think, but it's still not really common. It happens about 1 to 2 times per year per plane. So what are the odds that 3 different planes on the same movie got struck during the same amount of time? That is not common. Anyways, Peck's plane got struck, producer Mace Newfield's plane got struck, and the writer's plane got struck. What are the odds again? Peck almost died when he canceled a charter flight at the last minute. That plane crashed and killed everyone on board. The crash also killed a family driving on the road below. Turns out it was the pilot's own family. The pilot accidentally killed his wife and kids by crashing into them. You can't write coincidences like this. The special effects guy who created the movie's famous decapitation scene, well, a few months after filming, he was in a car accident. His assistant got decapitated by flying glass. The guy who invented a fake beheading watched a real beheading happen to someone sitting next to him. And during the zoo scene, the baboons went completely crazy and started attacking everyone. The animal trainer had to jump in and save the actress. The next day, that same trainer got killed by a tiger at his own zoo. Every death had perfect timing. Every accident matched something from the script. Either The Omen was cursed or reality has a really dark sense of timing. But some movies don't wait for perfect timing. They just attack you directly. The Conjuring loves bragging about being based on a true story. What they don't advertise is that the true story kept happening while they were filming it. The real Perron family came to visit the set. Carolyn Perron, the mom who got possessed in real life, was supposed to come but got mysteriously sick and couldn't travel. Exact moment her family arrived on set, they got hit by this massive gust of wind. Weird. except all the trees around them were completely still. Right then, back home, Carolyn fell down and broke her hip. Perfect timing again, except this time it wasn't a coincidence from 30 years ago. This was happening in real time. Then the hotel everyone was staying at caught fire, because of course it did. Vera Farmiga, who played the psychic investigator, refused to take the script home at night. Smart move, because after one long phone call about the movie, she opened her laptop and found 3 claw marks scratched across the screen. Digital claw marks on a laptop. She even took photos to prove it happened. But wait, it gets even better. The day she finished filming, she woke up with 3 actual claw marks bruised into her leg. Same pattern, and she couldn't explain how they got there. And trust me, you would remember something giving you 3 matching bruises on your thigh. Joey King, one of the kids, kept showing up to set covered in mysterious bruises. No stunts, no accidents, just bruises that appeared overnight and matched what was happening to her character in the movie. Even the phone calls were cursed. Every time the writers called the real psychic lady to talk about demons, the line would cut out or fill with static, but only when they mentioned the demons. At least those were just mysterious bruises and phone problems though. Because Roman Polanski made a movie about a woman whose baby gets stolen by Satan worshippers. A year later, Satan worshippers murdered his pregnant wife. Sharon Tate was 8 months pregnant when Charles Manson's followers broke into her house and stabbed her to death. They carved up 4 other people that same night, but Sharon was the target everyone remembered. A leading actress, almost ready to give birth, killed by a cult obsessed with triggering the apocalypse. The connections were too perfect to ignore. Polanski had just made a movie about devil worship and baby murder. Now his own unborn child was dead, killed by people who thought they were starting a race war on behalf of cosmic evil. As you could probably guess, the press had a field day with this. But the weirdness started before Sharon died. The composer who wrote that creepy lullaby theme fell off a cliff and went into a coma right after the movie came out, and he never woke up. Producer William Castle got so much hate mail calling him a Satan worshiper that he had a nervous breakdown. Then he collapsed with kidney stones so bad he almost died. While he was in the hospital, delirious with fever, he started hallucinating scenes about his own movie and screaming about Rosemary dropping the knife. Even the building was cursed. They filmed at the Dakota in New York, and 12 years later, John Lennon got shot right outside the same entrance. 2 of the most famous murders in American history happened at the same building. But moving on, let's talk about cannibals, because sometimes directors do get arrested just for crimes they didn't actually commit. Ruggero Deodato made his actors sign contracts promising to disappear from public for a year after filming. This was supposed to make people think they really died in his movie. It worked so well that Italian police arrested him for murder. Cannibal Holocaust was shot to look like found footage of documentary filmmakers getting killed by Amazon tribes. Deodato wanted it to seem totally real, so he told his cast to avoid all interviews, public appearances, and basically any proof they were still alive, which was a great plan until authorities watched the movie and decided they were looking at actual snuff footage. 10 days after the movie opened, cops showed up and seized all the film reels. Deodato got charged with obscenity and murder. Multiple murders, actually, because several characters died in the movie. Italian prosecutors were convinced they were watching real people get really killed on camera. The court case was ridiculous. Deodato had to bring his supposedly dead actors into the courtroom to prove they weren't corpses. One scene in the movie shows a woman getting impaled through her entire body on a wooden stake, and the judge was so convinced this was impossible to fake and that the actress must have actually died. So she had to demonstrate the trick in front of the court, showing how they used a bicycle seat and fake blood to create the effect. Obviously, the murder charges got dropped once everyone proved they were still breathing, but Deodato still got convicted for the animal cruelty because they did actually kill animals on camera, which isn't a good thing to do, obviously. Moving on, this is where the video gets extremely disturbing. I am warning you now, there are some movies here that I don't even really want to talk about because they're so messed up. If you're not into that, turn back now. You might be thinking, oh, that can't be that bad. Well, have you heard about a Serbian film? Yeah. Governments around the world looked at a Serbian film and decided it was too disturbing to exist. But not too violent or too gross, but too disturbing for human beings to watch, period. This movie got banned in at least 12 countries: Spain, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Norway. Places that normally let you watch pretty much anything said absolutely not on this one. The British Film Board cut 4 minutes from it and still barely allowed it to exist. Even the United States needed a special edited version before theaters would show it. Why? Well, the plot involves a retired Korn star who gets tricked into making movies that include very bad things I cannot talk about on YouTube. Don't you just love censorship? Well, I'll give you a metaphor. Think of the most worst thing possible, like the most disturbing type of person out there in the world. It's in that realm. The director claimed it was a metaphor for how the Serbian government treats its people, and most people who watched it said it was just torture disguised as political commentary. A film festival director in Spain actually got charged with a very bad charge, if you catch my drift, because he screened the movie. He faced possible prison time for programming a horror film at a horror festival. The charges eventually got dropped, but imagine explaining this to your family. You might get divorced on the spot. In Australia, a guy got convicted and fined just for importing the DVD, not for selling it or showing it publicly, just for owning it. Yeah, it was a pretty bad movie. The Serbian cast and crew got death threats at home. Politicians condemned the movie before they'd even seen it. The director had to defend it as art while also admitting he made something so disturbing that multiple governments banned it. This movie literally was made as one of the ultimate test cases for censorship. How extreme can a movie be before owning it becomes illegal? Apparently, this is where we start crossing the line. So, political metaphors are one thing, but some movies are just based on real horror. Because this story actually took place in Indiana in 1965. Most horror movies make up their worst nightmares. The Girl Next Door just filmed a real one. I watched this with zero context of what this movie was. I was like depressed for 4 days. Well, 16-year-old Sylvia Lakins was tortured to death by her caretaker and a bunch of neighborhood kids over 3 months. The case was so horrific that newspapers called it the worst crime in Indiana history. Gertrude Banzowski was supposed to watch Sylvia and her sister while their parents were traveling. Instead, she locked Sylvia in the basement and let her own kids and the neighbors torture her for fun. They starved her, burned her, carved words into her skin, forced her to eat garbage, and that's not even the worst things they did. It's that bad. And after 3 months of this, Sylvia died from her injuries. When Jack Ketchum wrote a novel based on the case, people thought it was too extreme to be real. Then Hollywood decided to make a movie out of it, because apparently someone thought the world needed to watch a recreation of child torture for entertainment. What's really messed up about the backstory is the actress who played the tortured girl had to endure scene after scene of simulated abuse while knowing it really happened to a real person. Maybe the only silver lining in this whole damn video is the crew kept counselors on set because multiple people were having breakdowns filming it. Finally, someone doing something good for a messed up movie. Why can't everyone else do that? When you talk about this sort of stuff, it messes people up. When I watched this movie, I was depressed for like 4 days. When the movie premiered at horror festivals, audiences were shaken in ways that they'd never experienced. Horror fans who love supernatural scares and slasher movies said this one depressed them on a completely different level, because there was no escape into it's just fiction. That can't happen to me. That can't happen to someone I know. It's just a monster from a movie. No, some monsters are worse than movies. And this one's very real. Sylvia Likens died horribly, and then Hollywood turned her suffering into a movie, which poses the question, do you think this is okay to do? Is it okay to tell stories this disturbing and bad that are real and make money off of it? Honestly, I could go either way. On one end, you could say, well, it helps get the word out there and more people know about the horrible things people go through. On the other end, people are making money off of it. So I don't know. But moving on, we're talking about a really messed up movie, and it involves clowns, and clowns have nothing to do with what's bad about it. Victor Salva spent the filming of Clownhouse abusing his 12-year-old lead actor. Yeah. Then he went to prison for it, and then Hollywood gave him more movies to make. Nathan Forrest Winters was just a kid who wanted to act in a scary movie about clowns. Instead, the director did unspeakable things that I can't really talk about on YouTube to him. What's even worse is that the director videotaped all of this. And when the filming wrapped, Nathan told the teacher what happened and Salva got arrested. And now you might think, oh, well, at least justice was served. No, this is a real life horror story. There will be no justice. Salva pleaded guilty to multiple felony charges, including very bad stuff. He got sentenced to 3 years, but only served 15 months. While he was in prison, Clownhouse got released anyways because apparently This type of abuse isn't enough to cancel a movie's distribution deal. Hot take, it should be. We're not done with this horror story though. Here's the really messed up part. Salva's career didn't end. Disney hired him to direct Powder in 1995 without telling anyone about his conviction. When people found out, Disney just said, I don't know, we knew about it, but like, we hired him anyway. And then have you ever seen Jeepers Creepers? Well, he made those movies too. Nathan Winters actually tried to warn people when Salva's career took off. He spoke about what happened to him, but Hollywood kept giving Salva work. When Jeepers Creepers 3 came out in 2017, protesters showed up because a convicted bad person was still making movies with studio money. Francis Ford Coppola produced Clownhouse and supported Salva through the scandal. Coppola said he believed in rehabilitation and second chances, which, I don't know. There's no argument here. There is nothing to say here. This is horrible. This is downright horrible. 15 months. 15 months! Well, moving on with shitty directors, let's talk about Salo. Bad movie again. Pier Paolo Pasolini finished editing the most banned movie in history and then got murdered 3 weeks later. Coincidence? Maybe, but the timing was so perfect it felt planned. Salo shows a lot of things. Just a lot of depraved, disgusting things. I am not going to go into detail about how bad it is, but based on everything we've talked about so far in this video, this is infinitely worse. I'm warning you. It shows fascists torturing teenagers. That's the log line I'm just going to tell you. The movie includes so much bad stuff. Italy pulled it from theaters immediately. Australia refused to let it exist, and England suppressed it for decades. Pasolini claimed it was political art about how fascism destroys innocence. Critics called it the sickest thing ever put on film. Both sides were probably right. You know what I call it? Why the fuck are we eating shit? Moving on to the disturbing backstory though, on November 2nd, 1975, someone ran over Pasolini with his own car multiple times. They found his body on a beach outside Rome, beaten and crushed. A man got convicted for the murder, but the case was weird from the start. The person claimed Pasolini attacked him, so he fought back and accidentally killed him, except the injuries didn't match that story. Pasolini had been beaten with sticks, run over repeatedly, and his testicles were crushed. That is not self-defense. That is someone with a grudge. Many people suspected Pasolini was killed by far-right groups who hated his communist politics and gay activism.
Why are you gay?
He'd been getting death threats for years. Making a movie that depicted fascists as sadistic perverts probably didn't help making these people less pissed off. The murderer later recanted his confession and claimed he was paid by others to kill Pasolini, but by then everyone involved was either dead or had disappeared. Salo remained banned in multiple countries 45 years later. Its director died violently shortly after finishing it, and the movie about fascist brutality became linked forever to actual brutal murder. So, real murder is tragic, but this next movie used fake murder to fool the FBI. Alan Shackleton had a terrible movie nobody wanted to see, so he convinced the world it showed a real murder. The plan worked so well that the FBI got involved. Shackleton owned the rights to Slaughter, a boring Manson family knockoff filmed in Argentina with a budget of whatever loose change the director found in his belly button. It sat unreleased for years because it was unwatchably bad. Then Shackleton had a brilliant idea. He'd film 5 minutes of fake behind the scenes footage where the movie crew murders the leading actress for real. The fake murder scene was obviously fake. Bad special effects, terrible acting, unconvincing gore. But Shackleton marketed it as genuine snuff footage from South America, where life is cheap. The poster literally advertised that you might watch someone get actually killed. And it worked. People lined up to see what they thought was real murder. Feminist groups protested outside theaters, giving Shackleton free publicity. The controversy was so big that the Manhattan District Attorney opened an investigation into whether they were looking at evidence of an actual homicide. The NYPD had detectives watching Snuff frame by frame, trying to determine if a woman really got butchered on camera. The FBI reportedly got involved. Interpol asked questions, all because a sleazy distributor tacked a fake murder scene onto his unwatchable shitty movie. Eventually, authorities tracked down the actress who died on screen. She showed up alive at a press conference to prove nobody had killed her, and the investigation ended, and the FBI was probably embarrassed. but by then, the movie had made much more money than anyone ever expected. And speaking of the FBI investigating fake murders, let's talk about Guinea Pig Flowers of Flesh and Blood. Charlie Sheen called the FBI because he couldn't tell the difference between pig intestines and human intestines, which, can you blame him? This resulted in an international investigation into a Japanese art student's gore movie. Guinea Pig Flower, Flesh and Blood is 42 minutes of a guy in a samurai mask dismembering a drugged woman, which sounds like something you would come up with if you were on acid. There is no plot. There is no dialogue, and there's no point except showing fake murder in extreme detail. The special effects were so realistic that when Sheen got a bootleg copy in 1991, he watched it and immediately called federal agents to report what he thought was a snuff film. Obviously, the FBI took this seriously, and they contacted the police in Japan and launched what became known as the Guinea Pig investigation, which sounds much more fun than what it's actually about. Ultimately, this investigation went on a while, but then things got worse when serial killer Tsutomu Miyazaki was arrested for murdering 4 little girls in Japan. Police found guinea pig videos in his collection, and tabloids speculated the movies inspired his crimes. The filmmakers publicly regretted that connection, but it added another dark layer to the story. Director Hideshi Hino was just a manga artist with a sick imagination, not an actual murderer. There you have it. Too many horror movies that caused more real horror than anything they put on screen. This video made me depressed. I gotta go take a break. You all should go to bed. It's bedtime. Go to sleep. Or go watch like a comedy movie or something like this. This is depressing. But if you don't want to do that, you should like this video and comment down below what other videos you want me to make in the future. And subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this. And again, if you're not going to bed, you can watch this video on screen now. It's not like a happy comedy, it's more horror. But you're a weird freak like me who likes that, so you'll probably watch it.